Everyone, FusedVR coming at ya, and Hassan here, and we got Brian over here.
What's up, guys?
Let me make sure he's actually. Oh yeah, we're in mixed reality. It's kind of a little buggy right now. Using Unity 5.6, which I will be complaining about a lot during the stream, so get ready for that. And yeah, Brian's going to talk a little bit about SVVR before we get started.
Hey guys, I'm Brian. I'm the community manager for SVVR, Silicon Valley Virtual Reality. If you haven't heard of us, so we're an organization focused on just advancing VR technology with workshops, classes, meetups, and events. So if you don't follow us on Twitter, svvrlive.com, or on Facebook, Silicon Valley Virtual Reality. And yeah, these guys are always awesome. They come here to our space. We're actually at the SVVR studio.
Yeah, so it's a little green screen magic right here. So
green screen back here. But yeah, if you guys haven't come to our meetups before, definitely check us out, and we'd love to have you. So
yeah, they had a meetup Thursday, right?
yeah, it was just 2 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff.
So yeah, you guys, everybody's welcome. So everybody come in.
Awesome.
All right, take it away.
Yeah, so here we are in mixed reality, and apologies that this doesn't look as pretty as we want. And you can see the mixed reality is kind of a little janky right now in the sense that those controllers that you see on screen a little far away, I think that's a bug right now with Unity 5.6. Hopefully that gets fixed. There actually seem to be a lot of issues with 5.6 and Steam VR. But, and let me check. So back here, or down here-ish, you'll see you'll see this little lumberjack dude who's just hacking away. He's kind of buried under the screen, and that's going to represent our soldier here. And what I can do is actually, I'm using VRTK for a lot of this. So I'm just using their best EA pointer. I can click, spawn another guy, spawn him as many times as I want. If I go down, click him, I jump into that area. So I can actually spawn a lot of them to like connect me. It's a really weird teleportation mechanic, honestly. And let's go there. And whoops, I need to move a little closer. There we go. And using VRTK, I can grab whatever I want. So let's see what I roll here. Hopefully a 4, fine. I'll take a 4. And I can teleport to it. I can also teleport to this barrel guy. There we go. And I can chuck that. So, and I guess the last thing I should show is I press application menu. I jump out into the super god mode, and you can see you can see all of the guys that I spawned all hacking away. It's that's the best avatar I could use given some time constraints. Hopefully if you are building this yourself, you can use a better avatar. And with that, let me switch back into mixed reality mode here. And so you can see the 4 screens that we're using for OBS. And let me know in the chat actually if you want to see a smallish tutorial on how to do this setup. It's not terribly complicated, but it's, I think, honestly one of the best ways to actually communicate a little bit what's going on. Obviously, if you have dynamic shots, that's even better. So this is the scene view, and let's just go ahead and start a new project. And nope, not open. The fails when you actually hit the wrong button. All right, so this, let's call this Livestream. And not save, let's just save that straight to the desktop, create, and fire away. All right, VR news time. What happened this week? While we are going to the asset store, getting Steam VR and VRTK, which we're going to use a lot of. And speaking of VRTK, I should make a plug for them because I'm using it. That makes a lot of sense. You can check out their Patreon. You can check out their Slack channel. Both Slack channel is really great. Highly recommend it. And if you haven't done so, you can definitely go support them on Patreon. They're doing really well. And I mean, if you want to see more features happen to VRTK, you definitely should go support them. And all right, so let's jump into the asset store here and get good old Steam VR and good old VRTK. Need both of those guys. And who here has been using, I'm kind of curious, who here has gotten a Vive tracker and used it? Because that, I need to get my hands on one. I haven't done that just yet, and I think that would be really cool to play around with a lot more. There's just, No! Brian, why? I want the trackers. We'll get them eventually. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And there's just too many toys to play around with. I just want to do a lot of cool things. If you haven't checked out, they actually SVVR live streamed their meetup in 360 in, I think they were having a little bandwidth issues, so not 4K, but it could have, if we had enough bandwidth here, could have supported 4K. That would have been awesome. And the future is just like it's happening. That's the crazy part about this. It's just like you got advanced cameras, you have advanced everything, more advanced tech, all of that fun stuff. Really, it's just happening before my eyes, and I keep up with the tech, and yet there's still so much that's going on. I'm excited to go to Vision, or we'll see if we go. But if we do go, I'm expecting a lot of huge announcements that are going to happen. There's the LG headset. My prediction, and I want to see other predictions in the chat, is last year they gave out HTC Vives to everyone. My prediction this year is they're going to either give out Vive trackers to everyone, or they're going to give out the new LG headset to everyone. And a backpack. Hassan said a backpack. Well, we'll give him that. I would be so... Or the other thing, a Microsoft, the Acer headset. One of those three things is my prediction. And I would be happy with any of those. But I want to see what are other things you guys are interested in, because I think there's a lot of cool stuff that could be given out, and that's just like the cream of the cake right there. We'll see what actually happens. I would be fine if nothing happens, but I kind of want one of those headsets. All right, and with that, let's just kind of dive right into the tutorial here. This one's a fairly short one, so I'm gonna chest fall onto you guys and let us know what you want to see. We'll do the basic setup probably by the first half of the stream. Probably jump into the wave in the middle. If you're watching this after the fact, I'll cut that part out so you don't have to worry about that. And then, yeah, I'm open to a lot of suggestions. Last time it worked out super well. It was such a fun stream to actually build that Zelda mechanic. And I want to do something like that again this stream. So let me know in the chat. Hassan is there with you guys. And yeah, in the meantime, let's get started. So with this, what I want to do is just create our plane first. Put that on the ground. Go to 0, 0, 0 there. From Steam VR, I'm going to go ahead and add our camera rig to the bottom. Put that at 0, 0, 0. And for God mode to really work, what we need to do is really scale everything up so we have a lot of play space to play around with. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this plane go about 10 by 10 by 10. So we have a lot of area to play with. And then the beauty of Steam VR compared to a lot of other applications out there is you can actually use the scale feature here to appropriately scale your play space and everything like that. Normally what will end up happening is when you either just change, especially on mobile VR, if you just change the height or scale of like just the camera rig, that really sometimes doesn't make you feel the same way as you do when you actually change the play space and you can walk like 1 step equals 5 steps. And that's a really cool thing that the camera rig here allows you to do. All right, so we have the camera rig in, and this is effectively simulating God mode. Now what we need to do next is really just make sure that when I shrink or change the scale of God mode, that I can turn back to that. So what we're going to write first is that change of reverting back to your set 5 by 5 by 5 or whatever position, rotation, scale that you have in there. And that's when you press the application menu. For that, what we're going to do is write a script. And let's just call this swap size. Name it whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. Something, hopefully, that you remember what's going to happen to it. Give that a second for good old Visual Studios to upload, or not upload, open up. Upload Visual Studios to YouTube. I wonder what would happen if we did that. Alright, so for this, I'm going to start with some Singleton Programming. What that means is, so we'll have access to it as long as we have swap size in the scene, and we can access it statically. And that's just the assumption there is that there's only going to be one swap size in this entire scene. for this, we do public static swap size instance, and in awake, you can do this in start or awake. I prefer to do it in awake just so that if you do inheritance, you're able to just use start instead, but choice is up to you. For this is all just standard. It's all just standard in the singleton code right here. So instance equals this, and void on destroy. You can tweak this code however you want. That doesn't really matter. Instance equals this, then instance equals null. All right, so that sets up our singleton so that we're able to access our this swap size function and all of the assets that we need for that. Next, what I'm going to do is cache or store our original position, original rotation, and original scale. And this is important so that we can always revert back to it when we need to. So vector 3 for position, quaternion for rotation. And Hassan, feel free to interrupt me if there's anything that pops up. All right. I wanna see an active chat. That's important to me. I love when people interact with each other, and that's another great thing about the streams, in my opinion. It's just like this ability to interact. Nice. That is perfectly fine. I just want to see activeness. I love people talking. It's cool. All right. So original position, we're gonna say transform dot position. Original rotation equals transform dot rotation. And original scale equals transform dot local scale. So there's no global scale that's attached to any transform. The reason is I think it'd just take a bit of calculation to like figure that out through the hierarchy. So you can just get the local scale of your object, or actually the lossy scale works too. Actually, I'm going to use the lossy scale. So that's just a little. The lossy scale is the global one, but it's read only. So keep that in mind. All right, so that's the start. Now I'm going to write a method here that says public void revert back. It's probably a lousy name, but it works for now. And we're just going to do the exact opposite of what we did. So transform.position equals original position, transform.rotation equals original rotation, and transform.local scale. And actually, yeah, I changed my mind. I'm going to switch it back to local scale instead of lossy scale, just to be consistent. And this is going to be original scale. So let's change this back to, whoops, to local scale. All right, and an update. I'm actually going to be using VRTK to save me a few lines of code here. Actually, I didn't want to delete those. We'll use those a little later. Using VRTK, so whenever you go into a script, this is how you're going to do that. And so this is a long line of code. It is shorter than, it's a lot shorter than actually writing out SteamVR's version of it, but still, one of these days, I think it'll be integrated with Unity. It'll be a lot cleaner to actually access input. They've been promising an input manager for a while, but I don't know where it is. If anyone from Unity is watching, let us know. I'd be excited to to hear about that. So VRTK, I believe it's called VRTK SDK bridge, and is button 2 press down on index is the method we're going to use here. So that's button 2. Let me show that. I actually don't know what this maps to on the touch. Do you know, Hassan?
What?
The application menu on the Vive controller? Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what it maps to. Someone let us know in the chat. Do we have a touch somewhere nearby?
Yeah,
Kind of curious. Yeah. That's fine. You don't have to worry about it for now. But like, it's this button right here. So it's actually a button you don't see used a lot, but I think it's one of the most convenient ways. Is what Out of Ammo uses for their reverting back, and I think that's a decent way to do it. So we need to now get access to our index. So we need to tell it whether it's the left or the right or something else entirely that has an application menu. I don't think Vive trackers do, but that's what we need to do there. And to get access to it, there goes the dogs. We need to get access to the SteamVR controller manager, and this is what Steam uses to store your left and right and your head, and you can get easy access to it. So that's what we're going to use right there. And this is let's just call this the manager for now. And we'll need to assign these. I know I'm going to forget when I go into Unity, but we need to assign that in the editor. It's going to be manager.left. Believe it's not index. What is left? Is it a game object? Ah, it's a game object. So we need to get the SteamVR. And I know it's messy, but we gotta do what we gotta do to get the values. So we need to detect if the left is down, and oh, we need to make this a uint, and that's just C# being nitpicky right there. That's fine. And let's do that the same thing for the right. All right, so that looks ugly. All right, let's clean that up a little bit. Otherwise, I'm gonna cringe throughout the entire episode. All right, that looks a little better. So now we're detecting if either we press the application button on the left or the right controller, we want to revert back to our original scale. So let's just call revert back right there. We're checking that every frame just to make sure we get it when it's pressed down. And that should do it. So let's go ahead and set that up, let this compile. One thing I almost forgot about this, and I mentioned that I was going to complain, and I'm complaining right now about Unity 5.6, is currently with Unity 5.6, the controllers are broken with the camera rig prefab. I probably won't post a video on this because I'm expecting a fix soon, but what you need to do is just add an update pose, which is what we're going to do right now. Let me first save the scene to just call this OA. And in this camera rig, go into your camera eye. On that one, not the head, on the camera eye, what you'll need to do is add the SteamVR, remember the name correctly, it was SteamVR, yeah, update pose. Just add that there. That should fix your issue if you're not seeing your controllers. Silly bug. I don't know why that's the case. Hopefully we'll get a fix soon. But for now, that's what you gotta do to fix it. And we need that basically because without it, we are not going to get any of the detection code that we want. Next thing I'm going to do is create an empty. Let's just call this the swap size. Add that into here. Oh, I left these public. I'm actually going to go back into the script and make them private. Just so that I don't have to see them in the editor. Switch back, let that compile. And so we want this controller manager script to be attached to our swap size. So I'm going to put that there. I didn't remember. I actually remembered, which is surprising. And the last thing that we're going to need to do is let's test it. I'm forgetting on what that last thing I need to do is. Let's pull the game view right here. Change. So what I'm going to do first is just do some crazy stuff. So move it off to the side, rotate it a little bit, change the scale to like maybe 222 or like 232, something like that. Ah, I remembered now. Now if I press the application button, you'll see here that we get an error that SteamVR is complaining about the controller SDK, and that is because we forgot to put SteamVR in. I knew I forgot something. So let's go into VRTK, go to examples. I think there is a prefab. I'm not sure if I know where it is. I'm just going to go ahead. Actually, I'm going to grab the go to basic object grabbing and go here, Control C this. If you're new to VRTK, I recommend the best way to kind of figure out what you want to do is to go through these examples and kind of deconstruct how they're working. That's really, there is documentation in the code, and there is some online, but I think really the best way to get an intuitive sense of what you want to do and all the scripts that need to be attached is to actually go into one of these example scenes and figure that out. So I'm going to go ahead, copy our VRTK object right there, go back into our scene, and paste it. You can put it wherever you want. I just like having all my objects, if they're not doing anything, to go to 0, 0, 0. That is laggy. I don't know why it's being a little laggy here. Give that a second. All right, there we go. And I will, just to make VRTK remember that it's using SteamVR. Sometimes it doesn't. I like that they added a quick select. That's kind of cool. Sometimes it's just a little buggy. Oh, we should also just delete our main camera so that we don't have two cameras in the scene. That also costs us some extra rendering. And with that, we shouldn't see any complaints. I'm going to go ahead and just move this. Let's just test to see that that works. Nope. And why? Unassigned. Show headset VRT camera. Ah. Okay, so the other thing we need to do is link everything here. So the reason that didn't work is because the linking, or VRTK didn't know what the controller was. So that hopefully now should fix it. Let's, as you can see, it's a very iterative process to, come on. Oh, I'm being so silly today. Let's go ahead. So we use transform. So instead of using the camera rig, so one thing you can do in that swap size is assign a reference to the camera rig. We didn't actually do that. We put that on our game object as opposed to the actual camera rig, which caused none of those positions were all getting changed and saved. Okay, now that's weird. Oops. So that should have definitely, we're not even seeing an error. We should have definitely gotten something to revert back. Let's actually put a debug log in here to see why, if it's even going through. So this is good debugging practice for me, at least. Any day now. So one thing that might be, so you'll see that we're not getting the on touch down to fire, which might be because both controllers are not on. Let's try that out. Let's actually move the headset up so that I don't have to worry about that for a bit. Alright, so now, hopefully, we should see the controllers in here. Okay, so that's one thing. Cool. Alright, so at least now we know that that log is working. Let's go ahead and move the camera rig. Perfect. Alright. This is why you test incrementally so that you solve small problems and don't test all of a sudden and figure out that you have a lot of big problems that happen all of a sudden. So cool. So now we got that reverting happening. We can switch when we can play around with all of them, but I think we're pretty sure that that works. Basically what we need to do now is make it so that I can go into an object. And for that, what I'm going to do is actually, yeah, I'll get the asset right now. I think that makes sense. So this was, actually no, change my mind. I'm going to go ahead and let's just set it up off to the side. What we'll need is first an empty game object, not under the camera rig. Let's call this one, just call this avatar for now. And on it, what I'm going to add is a SteamVR play area. What this does, I thought I moved you, clearly not. What this does now is allows us to, let's shrink this down to the size of 1 because that's going to represent our avatar. It basically allows us to see kind of the play area. You saw that at the beginning of the video. so you can see kind of your own play space and what your avatar or where you would want to go when you shrink down to that size. And to differentiate it from the normal play area that you might see, I'm going to change the color to red. You can use the SteamVR play area script to change any of that as you want. Calibrated lets you see your current play space, and you can also set it to a default of any of those sizes. You might have to go into hack the script if you want to see anything else, but you don't have to worry about that for now. And I think the neat part here is really, if you want to see the min spec for SteamVR, it's this setting right here, 200 by 150. All right, so we got the play space. Let's just create a really quick avatar. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. And if we want, we can add in our game object or our custom model later. And I hit create. I don't know why it didn't create. Okay, so we have a little cube here. We're just going to use primitives right now to just test. I'm going to set this to like 0.1, 0.1, maybe 0.25. You can make your avatar however you want. That's the beauty of VR. Just maybe use the scale feature right here. Make this a little chubby. Chubby little dude. Okay. And throw a legs on him. Actually, I'm not even going to bother with legs. I'm just going to create some hands. Duplicate that. Move both of these hands up. And to like maybe here. Rotate them about like so. Maybe move them like that. Perfect. And let's switch. That's another thing that's broken with Unity 5.6 is the global. Oh, in that case, I'm just going to leave. I thought I selected you already, but clearly not. Just move you about so, about so. This is the nice part about it's sometimes like, yeah, you don't really need a good looking avatar, but having some visual representation is better than nothing at all. At least if you're trying to figure out where things are in your scene. And yeah, that'll about do it. Really simple avatar, nothing crazy. I'm gonna get rid of their box colliders because you don't want to. And for our cases, what we want to do is actually create it so that you get the box collider on the play area. So if I click anywhere in that play area, then I teleport to it as opposed to clicking the avatar. You can do either, it doesn't really matter, but the colliders are what will dictate that. Go ahead and add a box collider to the top of our avatar. And by default, it doesn't actually see the scale of our play area because the mesh doesn't show it. What we're going to do is create that by setting it to 1. That's our play space. We'll make this move up by 1, make the height like 2. Close enough. I'm not going to try to be too nitpicky here. You can't really see that at all. That green line, those green lines represent our collider. Looks good enough to me. And that's our avatar. Maybe I'll scale these up a little bit. Let's maybe go like 2 by... Okay, never mind, I lied. Yeah, never mind. That avatar is just going to look that size. And that's okay. So great, we have an avatar. We'll use it as a prefab a little bit later. We can add in... the actual meshes don't really affect anything because we're using the box collider. And with that, what we can do is... let's make sure we can grab this thing. So I'm going to go into VRTK. I'm going to add in an interactable object. There we go. I'm going to remove disable when idle. If someone lets me know in the chat what that does, that would be great, but I don't know why you would want to disable it when idle because I don't think you can actually grab it anymore. I'm going to click grabbable for now. This is actually another thing. Like I said, I'm not a huge expert in VRTK, but one thing I did notice is, or actually maybe this isn't even true, but I thought if it, ideally in the scripts, what's up? Click on game view. I have game view open. Game view shows nothing right now because I'm not in the headset, and the headset currently is right in the middle of the plane. So what I'm going to do is just right now test this real fast, make sure I can grab our play area. And this basically is what's going to allow us to ensure that we can actually interact with things. So where's my controller? It's missing. Where's the controller MIA? Oh, there's one. What about the other one? Oh, I'm in Steam VR right now. Here we go. Alright, so I have these controllers here. Okay, cool. I can grab this thing. Okay, I think I threw... There is a lot of... No, there's a lack of gravity here. But you can see here, I can play with this. There's something always amusing about either throwing to another avatar or just playing catch with yourself in VR. We're going to get rid of that for now. Sayonara. Alright, throw those down there. And cool, so we know for sure we are able to interact with our play space. So now we can use that as a means to actually go in and detect when we grab something, and when we do, we'll go ahead and actually shrink down to that size and position. And one thing I'm going to experiment with on stream right now, right before I did this, or at least in the intro, what I did, use VRTK, maybe not, never mind. So I think there's a script called VRTK usable that allows you to use the use option. For what I wrote, I just used the grabbable event. I'll actually pull those up right now by jumping into the script. Alright, so these are all the events that we can use. So you can detect when it gets touched, when it gets grabbed, and then when it gets used. The used doesn't get fired even if you set usable. So I'm going to avoid it for now. Maybe we can change it in the future. And like I said, I'm not a huge expert in VRTK, and there's just so much there that I have not played around with. And I'm sure pretty much only the Stone Fox is the only one that has actually touched everything that there is in VRTK. But for now, what we're going to do is just use this event here. So this is going to get called whenever we go to grab an object. And so what we'll do is create another script that listens for that. So on here, let's go create another script. Let's call this grab event. Open that up. And what we'll need is access to that VRTK. So we'll need to first import in VRTK. And VRTK, VRTK interactable object. Let's call that object for now. And then what we'll do is say object.on. Actually, no, it's not on. It's called interactable object grabbed plus equals tab. So if you press tab, that automatically creates a method for you, which is kind of nice. And that's our event that's going to fire every time we grab an object. And so to be clear, this grab event is going to be attached to any object we grab. So what I'm going to do to guarantee that is say require component type of VRTK interactable object. And the reason for that is just so I don't make the same mistake I did in the intro or in the beginning, which is assigning the script to the wrong object. Alright, so we can keep that as void. What we're getting sent here is or whatever is getting the event, which is the sender, and we're getting who grabs us, which is which controller really, and those are the two things that get sent through in this method. And really all we need to do here is actually call swap. So we'll need to write an event or a method that shrinks down our size, and we'll do that within swap size because we made that a singleton. And then the other thing we need to do is just say game object dot set active to false, so that we stop grabbing it. We'll also need to just do object dot force stop interacting, so that forces us to drop it. And let's go ahead and in swap size write our method for changing to a game object. So public void revert, or change to size. That's probably a better name. Change to size. And so here, what we're going to do is just copy all of that, and then we'll get a game object as our parameter, which is going to be called new size for now. And we'll just replace all of these. So new size, transform position, change these, and just make this rotation and local scale. So for now, what I'm actually going to do is get rid of rotation, and the reason being is when you actually go to do the grab object, what will end up happening is you grab it and it's already going to rotate to your controller, which then you apply that to yourself and you get into these weird rotation problems. Again, this is a problem of me using grabbable as opposed to usable, but I did not figure out a good way to actually use the usable property. It wasn't seem to be getting fired, so I might need to attach a script. If anyone knows the answer to what script and wants to walk me through that right now, we can do that. That will allow us to use the rotation. But for now, what we're going to do is just use scale, and we'll call that within our interactable grab object. So for this, swap size dot instance dot change to size. What we're going to do is just pass ourself as the game object. And that's pretty much all we should need to do. We do need to add that to our avatar, so you'll see we have VRTK interactable object in there, and I'm just going to go ahead and drag game, or fine, let's type it, grab event on here. Let's assign our interactable object, and with that, what should happen is we turn on a controller, and if I grab it, I shrink down to that scale. Alright, so clearly, well, you can see it in the scene view, but I have no good reference within our our plane embodied place right now. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just create a sphere sun in the sky. Let's do that to get some sense of scale in our scene. Let's go ahead, or I want a sphere. That's what I'm feeling today, is a sphere. Let's drop that like yay so. Let's make it gigantic because we can. That looks like a jelly donut right now. There we go. And I'm getting kind of bored of the colors, so I'm gonna create a few materials just so we have something to play around with a little bit. Let's assign that to the floor. Let's assign like a yellow, orange maybe. That looks about right. Make a little metallic, change the smoothness. Okay, I want it a little brighter. Like, I'm not a huge fan. I'm gonna turn on emission. This is something that changed that I think it's kind of cool, is that you can toggle emission. Alright, good enough. I'm not gonna play around with that too much, because that's not what a lot of you are here to see. And let's change the sun. It's important to have materials, ideally textures, because nothing in the real world is a flat color. That is reality. I'm just gonna make this a bright red with emitting orangish light, like so. Kind of hacky, but it'll get the job done. And so now we go into VR. I see that giant thing. I'm gonna grab this, and I mean, I definitely changed position. Still looks a little big, but I mean, scale changed size, and obviously it's bigger than both of us, so like relatively, it's not going to change a lot in scale. So with that, we should that's most. Oh, and I guess the other thing to test before we kind of, how we're doing on time? Yeah, we got 20 minutes before a break, and we have the basics down. We have an avatar and we have our God mode size. You can obviously play around with all these scales to make it feel however you want, but if I just I'm not even gonna okay, there we go. And if I press application button, we revert back. One thing that we do realize is we don't have our avatar anymore. It kind of disappeared because we made it a game object that turns itself off. So what I'll do instead is I'm going to create a list. and we'll just call this of game objects. And this is just going to store all of the game objects that we've turned off already. I'm going to get myself in the screen. So list game object of scales, or let's call it avatars. There's new list game object. All right. And so we have that for avatars. I'm going to, in change to size, what I'm going to do is say avatars.add our new size right here. And then when we go to say revert back, we're just going to say for each game object A in avatars, we'll say a.set active to true, and that true with a capital T doesn't exist. And we'll say avatars dot clear, because we're not using those anymore. So that we should now, in theory, be able to revert back, turn my controller on so I can see it somewhere, maybe. Hello, there we go. Grab this, switch back, there it is again. Come on, where are you? There we go, switch back. Boom. Really the only thing we have left to do is just spawn new avatars, and that isn't terribly hard either. We're like most of the way through this, and I mean, now it's kind of, what do you want to see? Some other options that I'll throw out here before I get into the spawning avatars is playing with the nav meshes to kind of have them walk around. We can, I mean, the teleportation was cool. We can have some grabbables in there. The last thing is this is all integrated with VRTK, so we can add anything we want in there. So like whether that be climbing, like make an obstacle course out of this, where you have to like shrink and scale to like climb up certain things and grab things, or yeah, there are just so many things you could do with God mode that's really cool. You could have different things, have different equipment that when you spawn into them, you get that. A lot of different things. I want to see in the chat what you guys think. But in the meantime, let's just first spawn some avatars so we can play around with that mechanic. And for that, what I'll need to do is go into our, actually I don't want the scene changer. I want these left and right controllers. What I'm going to do here is add a VRTK pointer. And I'll also add a VRTK Bezier. Not the Bezier pointer, sorry. The Bezier renderer. Bezier renderer. Here we go. And we just need to attach this to the renderer script right there. And we'll need to do that individually. So left controller is set. We just need to do that for the right controller. Let's go ahead and add that in. So it's attached to touchpad press. And if you do want to change anything, so normally what I like to do is actually for interactables, I'll do it with the trigger as opposed to the grab or grip buttons. You can play around with that all you want. Those are all accessible via the inspector, which is kind of cool. And so the next thing that we want to do is VRTK, the pointer here, is actually based on inheritance. I think there's going to be an update eventually that will at least add in events. Right now that doesn't exist, so we're going to have to add that in ourselves. And the best way to do that is we'll go here. We'll use this as a base for our event. Just add that in. And we need the delegate, which is this guy. Go ahead and copy that into VRTK pointer, so that's right here. So this is just the base of what we'll need to do. We don't really need the comments for now. I'm just kind of hacking this together as we go, but you can do this however you want. And the reason we're doing events here as opposed to inheritance is I think events are a lot cleaner for this type of purpose. I like what they have already in the interactable object. It just works really well. And what we'll just say is pointer action. We don't need to send this. What we might want to do is send, oh yeah, we want to send the raycast information, but that's it. Let's call this a pointer action, and we'll just do it for on on pointer enter, on pointer exit, and on pointer clicked. Those are the three things. We're actually only going to use on pointer and click right now, but I'll show you where if you want to use these for whatever reason, you can add them in. On pointer clicked. Okay, great. So on enter, exit, clicked. So obviously you can tell here, if we do pointer enter, we'll do that right here. Unfortunately, we do have to do this little patch on pointer enter, and we just have to check if it's not null. The reason being we do that is if we, so normally Visual Studios will complain if you do this, but Unity wants you to do this. And it's a difference in compiler versions. So I think Visual Studios is using a C# compiler that's a little more recent, and Unity doesn't. And I think that's again for cross-compatibility reasons, but it's fine, really. It's adding one line of code. That's not the biggest deal in the world. And so that's on pointer exit and on pointer enter. And then the one for on pointer clicked is, let's see if I can find it. Check button map conflict, check button subscriptions, activation, somewhere down here, all the way at the bottom, pointer. Yeah, it's start use. Yeah, I believe it's this. Let me double check. Oh no, it's sorry, it's attempt on use set. This is stop using, start using here. So you can either do it here or you can do it in start use action. What I'll do is I'll put it here. And we have to change these to on pointer click. And we'll have to test this to make sure I didn't put it in the wrong place. That's a thing. Oh, I did put it in a place I had access to the raycast, so maybe it was not there. Where's the raycast? Let's just look for that real fast. So I remember it was just easy to find it before. Select, yeah, it was right here. Now the reason is we have that raycast information, we can use it. And let's put destination hit is the name here. And this I'm pretty sure does work. Let me check to make sure there is no other raycast. Because, yeah, it's definitely here then. So this is how we know that we are using it, which is not terrible. And I'm pretty sure this is the right place to put it. With that, I can go ahead and hit, let's create a C# event for spawn avatar. And this one's going to be a really simple script, just like grab event. That's the nice part about actually having events, and so you can write some pretty short scripts to actually get the stuff you want to have happen. One thing I did forget to do though, so we have these events that are actually specific to each pointer. So you'll have a different event that fires for the left and the right. For our purposes, we don't actually care, so to save us a few lines of code, I'm going to make them static. And what that does is it's going to fire regardless of whether this is the left or right controller, or regardless of what scripts you actually add the VRTK pointer onto. For like the purposes of VRTK, that's not ideal. For our purposes, this is perfect. So I'm going to stick to that. Let's go ahead, VRTK. Yes, we need to import in VRTK. Let's do that. VRTK, cool. And then we'll say VRTK underscore pointer dot on pointer clicked plus equal. There we go. We'll need a prefab, which is going to be representative of where we want to spawn our avatar. So let's just call this public game object. Yeah, let's go with avatar prefab. Perfect. And we'll just say instantiate our avatar prefab at given hit dot point dot position. Is that a thing? Yeah, that's a vector 3. Okay, cool. So given hit dot point and then quaternion dot identity. And that should be the only line we need right there. Like I said, spawning a prefab lets you do things really, really quickly. And let's go ahead, add that to our scene. Create an empty. And this one, I know we don't, that doesn't really matter where we spawn it. Just go ahead, drag that in. Let's create our prefab. So that's just by dragging the avatar down. So you can see we have the prefab set right here. I'm going to go ahead, drag that in, and let's just call this spawner. I'm going to call it a spawner for now. Well, that, I think we're good to go. I'm going to, so let's just make sure we see the controller. I'm going to keep shaking it until it finds it. Hello. There we go. Sometimes takes a bit of time. You can see we have the green to represent where the Bezier pointer is pointing. And yeah, basically wherever I click, that's wherever it hits. It's again, so the plane has a collider, and that's what it's using to detect where it is going to actually land. And for any of these, I should actually just be able to jump into them. So why don't I do that? And then, yeah, I mean, this is mostly what we had at the beginning, and I want to open it up to Q&A pretty much, and Q&A and building after this. Let me go ahead and jump into you. I'm too tiny now. Well, that was a mistake. I need to, let me go ahead first and throw things into places I can actually use them. So jump down, go to there. Yeah, I can just quickly just move between all our avatars.
Pretty cool.
In 50 minutes. We have God mode working. Didn't have to write that much scripts. Obviously, VRTK helped a lot as far as interactions. I didn't want to spend a lot of time, was the thing, with just kind of moving. Like, let's detect when I hit this, and let's detect when I hit that. VRTK already does it. Highly recommend. Use that or other equivalents like Newton VR, the Input Manager, Steam VR interaction system. All of those great options for not having to write your own code to manage everything. And with that, I think it's time for a break, and then let's give that a shot. Hopefully that fixes things. And he was also saying you don't have to use events. I added my own, but yeah, inheritance, yeah, if I unfortunately, if I don't see the inheritance, I'm just like, what is going on? And it's called interact use. Do I have to assign anything? No. And then, in theory, according to this, I should be able to go to our grab event, replace this with interactable object used, and go back here. Do I need to change anything? Oh, I can. Okay, let's go ahead and go to swap size, turn back the rotation. This is going to be a good test. Turn off grabbable on our interactable object. So I guess on the avatar here, just no, I'm gonna keep that off. Turn off is grabbable. Turn on is usable. We don't want to grab it. Oh wait, did I? Sorry, I attached this to the wrong thing. Let's remove that. On the avatar, let's add interact use, and that perfect, I think. That should be attached to this, so it should know what the interactable object is. Let me go ahead and hit apply, and now let's test. Make sure that this actually works. Because if it doesn't, we got problems. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm wondering if YouTube's gonna flag me for throwing the Waves music on there. I don't know if it's video ready, but if we delete it, it's gonna be fine. We'll find out. All right, go ahead, grab. All right, that is not firing. Stonefox health. No, there are errors. Okay. No model container can be found. Have you selected about? Okay, so we need to re-enable that apparently. Let's auto-populate. Change this to Oh, there's Daydream support now? That's legit. Let's try this again. Using the, why is there no more? You selected a valid controller SDK, and SDK if you're unsure. It's going to touch in this and select controller SDK I have. I thought I had. Oculus VR, change this. Attach to it in edit mode. I don't think that's firing anymore. Let's see. SteamVR, save. Let's try this again. No, still nothing. Where's the error coming from? That's what I want to know. Controller actions. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to fix right now. So we have interact grab. Interact touch is here. We're not doing a custom rigid body. Well, maybe we should actually. Oh wait, why is interact touch on here? I don't want interact touch in here. Let me remove that. No, I do. Sorry, I do want interact touch on there. That's on here. Oh, on the controller.
Yeah, on the controller it is object from VRTK.
Interact. Use. All right. Wait, so that event fires from. Huh. Interesting. And then I don't need it here, is what I'm assuming. I can get rid of these guys, I think. And then on, just remove Bezier pointer. Controller, was it this? Does this need models? Model paths? That would be interesting. Let's hit play, see if that fixes things. No errors, that's a promising. Check. Alright. Okay, there we go. Cool. That works. So it's based on trigger. So interact use is based on trigger. Got it. And so now in theory, let me spawn. Yeah, okay, awesome. And so that is using rotation too, which is nice. So actually, if I go ahead, let me spawn something really quick. Or actually, I can just rotate any of these. Right now, we're not changing the rotation to anything, which is fine. We can if we want. Let's not the plane. We can rotate the plane, but we're not going to teleport to the plane. Let's rotate this avatar. Okay, not like that. Maybe like so. One of these guys should be, so you are, so I grabbed one of them that's like that. So in theory, I should rotate. Yep, perfect. So rotations are working. And everything should be hunky-dory. I think. So yeah. So like, obviously, I think in the game view you can see, when I do the rotated one, I now rotate according to that, based on whatever that forward direction is. I don't know why it's complaining, but it was working. So I will take a working code any day. Awesome. Yeah, let me pull up the chat now. I didn't actually get a chance to look at it and see what are suggestions, thoughts people are looking at, or considering.
One guy forgot his name, totally blanking right now, but he wanted to do an animated scaling or maybe some sort of transition rather than just
instant. All right, we can do that.
Yeah, and then Stonefox is popping in with a bunch of VRTK.
All right, cool. VRTK. It's kind of helpful to have the master of VRTK guiding us. That's for sure. I can dig in as much as I can, but obviously, I don't know everything. Can you try climbing? In this one? Yeah. Or climbing. We have a tutorial on climbing, but we can add climbing to this. That's for sure. That's not too bad. Let me go ahead first and add the scene transition or the scale transition. That's actually pretty easy to do. It's based on this method right here. What we're going to do, enumerator. I'm going to use a coroutine. So coroutines are very interesting in the sense that they're like threads, but they're not threads. And that's like honestly the best way to explain it. If you don't know what a thread is, it's basically running something in a parallel process. Coroutines do something similar, except it's running on the same thread every frame or whenever it needs to get called, and it does that, which is interesting. So animated transition. So I'm just going to let's specify a time parameter. I'll make that public for now. Public float transition time equals, let's do 2 seconds for now. Obviously, we can change that in our editor just to play around with it. I'm actually going to get rid of that log. And so we know the total transition, we need a float for cur time equals, or total, sorry, let's call this total time equals 0f. And we'll say while total time is less than transition time, total time plus equals time dot delta time. Yeah, total time equals time dot delta time, and we're gonna yield just to get rid of the error because I don't like looking at errors. Yield return null, which basically lets us wait till the next frame. And the other thing we'll need to do is just save our starting transition and then the new size. So we already have new size. We can use that game object new size. Okay, all right, cool. So we have the new size, and then we need to save the start size. So this is going to be vector 3 start size equals quaternion start rotation equals transform dot rotation and vector 3 start scale equals transform dot local scale. Perfect. Now what we'll do is transform dot position equals vector 3 dot lerp, which is, if you haven't heard of lerp before, it is your new friend. Lerp is, it's basically, think of it kind of like averaging over time, which is a really simple way of describing it, but it allows you to really get your animations to do whatever you want them to do. Say new size of transform dot position there, and then we're going to say it's total time divided by transition time. So that'll animate you over however much time you want it to take. So the interesting part here is if you want to move, so what this will do is it's consistent over a set amount of time. You're going to move a constant amount. If you want to vary the amount of time, effectively moving at a set transition position, a transition movement, so like say 2 meters per second, as opposed to your transition to take 2 seconds, you'll need to vary this to work with time.delta time and moving a fixed distance to actually get to your position. But for now, we're going to use lerp so that we just take, every transition will take 2 seconds. And then we just need to copy this line for scale. We'll use the same thing or very similar thing. So this is going to be local scale equals start scale and local scale. And do a very similar thing for rotation, except this one we're going to use quaternion, and we're going to use lerp. So that is a spherical interpolation, which works better with rotations. You can also use the lerp, but I don't actually know off the top of my head what the difference is. We can Google it after the fact, but no, if you're using quaternions, you generally want to use slurp. So that's lerp, slurp, lerp. So it'll update that every frame. We save the start starting positions, which is our first parameter here. That these are our end parameters, and then we have the transition time. So that'll do it for this. One thing we're not doing is we're immediately turning off our avatar as soon as we click on it. We could change that so that it uses this animated transition to turn it off after, as soon as we get there. For now, I'm not going to worry about that too much. It's a slight detail, not a big one. All right, so this should allow us to animate down and animate back up. We're not doing it on the return to get back to our size. We're just immediately doing that, but that's not terrible. All right, so turn on this controller here. Any day now. Cool. So now, that happened really fast. Oh wait, I'm not calling the coroutine. That's probably an important step, is actually calling this silly thing. Start coroutine, animated transition to new size, and then comment out these lines. Okay, I need to tighten this. Hassan's head is too big, at least for my head. Comment those lines out, and all right. Now that we're actually calling the thing, let's jump back into VR. That was still really fast. All right. So this, let's debug time. So it's total time. So that's 0. So what happens? So let's try this. Let's make it 100. See what happens. Make sure. So that's also instant. Is this saving? Yeah, it is saving. And we are calling our coroutine. So what I'm going to do now, so total time is less, we're plus equalings on time by delta time. I'm going to go ahead and just run some debug calls to just make sure we're actually in here. Play. And so it does, which is interesting, right? So it calls hello 177 times. It's not changing. So let's actually take a look at what the camera rig values are as it moves to that new position. Oh, it is? Wait, what? I'm so confused right now. Because it does not look like that in VR. Oh wait, now it is. Is it still going? Okay, that's interesting. Very interesting. Let's try it 2 seconds here. Again. Check. I want to make sure those values are happening. Because it's really hard to tell. Okay, so that is clearly working. Oh, right. Because I made it a public value. Obviously, it's mapped onto our camera rig, so this should still be 2. If we made it 100, it'd obviously be a lot smaller. But yeah, I can definitely see the animation working. I'm wondering right now why that doesn't feel good in VR. Wait, what am I doing? I guess it's because my reference frame is just way too big, so I don't notice the difference all that much. What I'll do is let's go ahead and move this and make this kind of small and very close by. So like maybe 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Put it like yay, so maybe. Save that. Move that about here. So now it should look really small, and as we get closer to it, I should get a lot bigger. Yeah, that does it. And so you guys can see it off in the game view, but I mean, that seems to be doing the thing. We can change that value to be whatever we want. We can change that in the Spectre, which is kind of nice. But clearly, we're animated down to our position. Let's actually try this out with multiple different game objects. So let's give that a shot. go here. So what I'm going to do is bend down to scale down myself. So let's try that again. So that we get it every time we want. That moves me closer, animating it. I keep getting closer here. It does. I'll be honest. That does. I feel the motion sickness coming. Which is just the reality of working on something like that. It's kind of a really weird movement system that, I mean, if you don't get motion sickness, that's great. If you do, I don't recommend trying that, or just try it once just to see how it feels, and then don't do it again. That's the reality of it. But yeah, that's animating it. So let me pull up the chat again to see if there's anything specific about that. Do you know where that comment was, Hassan?
Which one?
The one about animation.
Oh gosh.
Did it get buried?
We've been typing a lot.
That's what it looks like, which is awesome. I love this.
Yeah. It's from Haldun, Haldu.
Ah, cool.
And it's probably like midway through, a little higher up than midway through. I think it's over there.
I just want to make sure like I hit it properly. The other thing we can do is add Climby in. So definitely not midway through.
There.
Oh, okay, cool. Let's animate the scale.
That's where we were talking about it, but it probably got introduced higher. Yep. He's talking about it there.
Pivot point, right. Got it. So we did animating. We can add some Climby stuff in. We can actually move a lot of this stuff to Stone Fox's existing climbing area. So let's go ahead and do that, because we can. Let's go ahead, copy our camera rig here, and paste it, or let's copy these two. Anything else? We don't need the avatar because we're going to spawn it in. We don't need the sphere. We didn't. We added interact use to VRTK, so let's just double check that that exists in that example scene. I'm just going to dive into the climbing scene, which is actually one of my favorite scenes in VRTK. I just first have to find it. Climbing, falling. Cool. All right, this is the scene. Let's go ahead and paste this in. Paste. All right, so we have giant camera rig in here. Let's just double. Yeah, this is just your standard camera rig, so I'm going to delete that because we don't need that for playing around with this. Move this up a little bit so we're above the floor. Maybe make the size a little higher. So like, I don't know, 10? Yeah, 10 looks okay. Maybe not 100. That was a mistake. Yeah, 10 looks good though. Change this to be just camera rig. We don't need the number there. Let's make sure we don't need scene changer for now. Let's make sure that our interact grab, interact pointer, does he have pointer, perf? Oh, so he does. So okay, well, and disable teleport for now. Just because we don't need it. We'll add the. I'm actually kind of curious to see if this breaks things. Interact use. And in theory, we should be able to climb around now. I feel like I broke a lot of things, but we're going to figure that out. It's going to be great. Okay. Well, I was falling. Okay, so one thing I will do is I'm going to disable the body physics so I don't jump up like this. It's just kind of weird. And so touchpad is not bringing up our Bezier pointer. I'm wondering why that is. The model container. Okay, so let's maybe re-enable SteamVR on these guys. Oh, auto-populate, that's a thing. Alright, so hopefully now we should find it. Yep. Alright, cool. So we spawned our avatar. I'm going to teleport down. That felt trippy. I'll give it that. Move over to here. Alright, so now, nice. Oh, God. Nah. I'm trying to be a sleuth right now, but clearly not working. Alright. Oh, fail. So much fail what happened right there. Move over like so. Become a ninja. Climb up the pole. And fail super hard. Let's see. I'm gonna zoom back down into you. Mark. I've recently been playing around with a climbing simulator as well. I do kind of, my personal take on it is that I like having, I like having the ability to use the trigger instead of grips for it. I don't know how that actually feels on the Oculus. Oh, whew, almost fell. Oh God. No! The fail is so real. I can climb here. Alright, someone's gonna have to take me out of this because I can. I'm not gonna lose until I get to the top. I think there's a wait. Oh God. No. Ah. Alright, what's the hack way to do this? I think it was. Oh no, it wasn't the yellow. I think it's the blue, if I remember correctly. Let me zoom into that. Alright. What? Oh, you know what I'm doing wrong is I'm holding them the wrong way. I should be holding them like this. Ooh, almost fell there. Nice. No! Ooh. Alright, I think this is the top. Maybe? Okay, there's more here. Almost fell again. Yeah, this is the top. Alright. I think I can pull my... Nope, I cannot pull myself up like that. Good to know. But yeah, okay, cool. So, this is a different take on it. We disabled the teleport. So, normally what happens in here is you can teleport around. We can now God mode around. That's kind of cool. And yeah, very different take on it. The nice part is this does work with VRTK, so you can add it pretty much in any of these example scenes. So if you want to do it in the grabbing, you can do it in the grabbing. You can do it. What are some other cool example scenes in here? Move in place, restricted teleport zone. We're not doing teleporting though. Nav mesh. Talked a bit about that. It's a different take on out of ammo's method of it. Interacting with pointer, FPS, we don't need that. Haptic rumble. That's actually missing from this now that I think about it. There should be some haptic rumble when you grab stuff. But that's nitpicking to the extreme right there. That, I mean, this is not meant for like a game per se. It's more meant to demonstrate you can do climbing really easily. Cool. Anything else popping up in the chat?
No. We're talking a lot about just models.
Models?
Yeah, modeling.
Oh, I didn't.
lightsabers.
That's not part of this. That's. Oh. We could throw a lightsaber in here, actually. if people are up for it, and I'll give this a minute. I think I know a way to hack in a lightsaber right now.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Roland has built one out, I think.
Right? Or it wouldn't be a lightsaber per se. It would be more like a janky lightsaber. I'll call it that. I'll call it the janky lightsaber. I'd basically, what I'd do is I would go in Tilt Brush and use the light thing to draw one. I was drawing one as a sketch, remember? And yeah, you can just Tilt Brush SDK.
Oh, it just export it?
Yeah, you just export it and brings it in. So janky, but it works. No, the real way you do this is from the particle system. or a mesh. Mostly a particle system though. The chat really quick. Obviously, this is the cut down version. 1995. What happened in 1995? I was barely born.
I forgot why we talked about 1995.
Oh yeah, VR. So I didn't get to just check the tutorials out here, but I want to check out what the VR kid is doing. And I think Hassan mentioned this in the chat, but if you're in the Bay Area, definitely come by to any of the SVVR meetups. We're generally there and love connecting with everyone. It's so cool to see people in person. Saw a lot of people at the conference. I mentioned that last stream, and it's really cool to see everyone. So that's exciting. That's really exciting for us for sure. 360 stuff. Nice. Okay, yeah, the 360 stream is going.
Yep, right there.
Low. Right behind me. Upgrade assistant.
Just a lot of installation.
Downloading. Do it, Roland. Do it.
Yeah,
we downloaded in like a minute, so definitely worth it. All right, cool. So yeah, definitely check out the Wave VR. Yeah, and I mean, it's like one of these things we kind of put together at the last minute. And another thing, post in the comments if you'd be interested in seeing some guest developers from the Bay Area. That's something kind of want to start doing moving forward. Obviously we'll have the live streams as it is because they're really fun for us to do. But I think it'd be super cool to bring on some guest developers. Hint, that might be happening soon, whether you like it or not. Or at least we'll experiment with it.
Won't be very long.
Yeah, it won't be very long. Or yeah, just other tutorials you want to see, comments below. And that pretty much does it for the stream. If you haven't, make sure, I feel like most of you guys have, which is awesome. If you haven't, make sure to like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter. There's tons of content there if you want to keep up with what we're doing outside of these streams. And if you haven't also, definitely hit that like button or subscribe. That just helps exposure to share the word with as many other people through YouTube's algorithm. And yeah, that pretty much does it.
That's all. Yeah.
So this has been Fuse, man.
And Hassan.
We're signing out.
Start talking about
All right.